We are on to chapter 7 of Cybernetics. This might be the most important chapter because it's all about being happy. I really urge you to stick around for this video because this might be the most important one of this series. You can acquire the habit of happiness, chapter 7. In this chapter, I want to discuss with you the subject of happiness, not from a philosophical but from a medical standpoint. Dr. John A. Schindler's definition of happiness is a state of mind in which our thinking is pleasant a good share of the time. From a medical standpoint and also from an ethical standpoint, I do not believe that simple definition can be improved upon is what we are talking about in this chapter. I have a different definition of happiness, but we'll just go with this for the time being. You can, by all means, ask me in the comments and I'll explain it. But happiness is good medicine. Happiness is an aid to the human mind and physical machine. We think better, perform better, feel better, and are healthier when we are happy. Think about, have you ever been in a good mood? Have you ever been, not stressed out and become sick all of a sudden? Generally, it's when life is catching up with us, when all the things around us, all the stresses are piling up. We don't know if we can deal with it. That cold sort of manifests out of nowhere. And this is the idea that it's talking about. I don't know if there's a study that concurs what I'm about to say, but generally the people that live the longest are the people that are the happiest, the people that want to be here, the people that, enjoyed their lives on a daily basis. Okay, where was I? We think better, we perform better, we feel better and healthier when we are happy. Even our physical sense organs work better. Russian psychologist K. Kekachev tested people when they were thinking pleasant, unpleasant thoughts. He found that they were thinking pleasant thoughts, they could see better, taste, smell, and hear better, and detect finer differences in touch. Dr. William Bates proved that eyesight improves immediately when the individual is thinking pleasant thoughts or visualizing pleasant sense. Margaret Corbett has found that memory is greatly improved and that the mind is relaxed when the subject is thinking pleasant thoughts. Okay, so really what this part is saying is that everything in your life will get better the better you feel. So imagine you're dealing with a stressful thing. If you're stressed out, if you're scared, if you're fearful, if you're worrying about the results, how likely are you to make the best decision? Not very likely. Versus if you were relaxed, if you were calm, if you could see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you could see your way through it, if you could enjoy the process, if you could learn from the experience. Whenever you're enjoying something, you just have a curiosity, you have an imagination, you have a creativity that you can carry with it. But when you're feeling neglect, when you're feeling fear, when you're feeling regret and all sorts of feelings like this, it's very difficult to make the best decision. And more or less what this chapter is going to focus on is the idea that when you are happy, when you are acting with happiness, then everything else will follow. And it's really easy to find happiness in your life. I don't know if the chapter is going to say this. I cannot remember specifically, but one of the things that I do to find happiness is if I'm really in a bad mood, if I'm really getting into negative thoughts, if they just continue to pile on and pile on and pile on and pile on, what I do is I get out a sheet of paper, get out my notes app, or even in my head, I list the things that I have that other people don't have. And immediately I feel better. And I promise you, if you get to 100 things that you have that other people don't have, you can't help but be more gracious. You can't help but be more appreciative. It is very easy to see the negative aspects of life. It is a lot of times difficult to see the positive aspects, but when you force yourself to feel it, when you force yourself to observe it, then things can get better. Common misconceptions about happiness. Happiness is not something that is earned or deserved. Happiness is not a moral issue or any more than the circulation of the blood is a moral issue. Both are necessary to health and wellness. Happiness is simply a state of mind in which our thinking is pleasant a good share of time. If you wait until you deserve to think pleasant thoughts, you are likely to think unpleasant thoughts concerning your own unworthiness. Happiness is not the reward of virtue, said Spinoza, but virtue itself, nor do we delight in happiness because we restrain our lust, but on the contrary, because we delight in them, therefore we are able to restrain them. Spinoza, Ethics. That's a very interesting work of philosophy as well. I really urge you to pick up Spinoza's Ethics, perhaps the best explanation of God that there is. What is he saying here, though? What is important about this? He's saying that many people wait for the end goal to be happy. I will be happy when I have this. I will be happy when I have $1 million. I will be happy when I have this job or this or this or this. And what you're doing is you're pushing off your happiness. You're saying that I can't be happy right now. And guess what? When you get that victory, it's going to be hollow because you're basing your happiness off of external circumstances. Happiness is not based off of external circumstances. Happiness is based off of internal acceptance. The pursuit of happiness is not selfish. Many sincere people are deterred from seeking happiness because they feel that it would be selfish or wrong. Unselfishness does not make for happiness, for it is not only gets our mind directed outward away from ourselves and our introspection, our faults, sins, troubles, unpleasant thoughts, or pride in our goodness, but it also enables us to express ourselves creatively and fulfill ourselves in helping others. Okay, this is a very, very, very important aspect that I don't think is very well understood, but in order for you to have a happy relationship, you have to be happy with yourself. If you rely on someone else for your happiness, then they are your drug dealer and they will never live up to your own internal standard because they are not you. So if you really want to be the best service to other people, you need to find happiness in yourself first so that you can give your happiness in excess. So you can lift up the people around you that aren't able to feel the happiness that you feel. You know, if somebody's having a down day, then you can reach your hand and pull them back up. But if you're having a down day too, and that person is as well, sadness multiplies. And that's really the emphasis on this. This is why we need to find happiness in our daily lives, because if we can find happiness, we can share it with other people. And as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. You cannot count on the world to change. You cannot point your finger and say, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and solve all the world's problems. The only way you solve the world's problems or start to solve the world's problems is to start on yourself. Okay? That's the most important thing you will ever learn from me. That is the most important thing you will ever learn in general. You cannot change the world. You can only change yourself. Once you understand that idea, then you can start fixing these things. But until you understand that idea, until you stop pointing the fingers at other people, you will never be able to be happy. Okay? Happiness does not lie in the future, but the present. We are never living, but only hoping to live and looking forward always to be happy. It is inevitable that we never are so, said Pascal. Very, very important quote. I will read it again to emphasize it. We are never living, but only hoping to live. I think we always say we're going to do the things, but we never do them. We always are held back by the fear of something. When was the last time you did something to pursue your dreams? When was the last time you did something that you were very passionate about? Instead, you sit back, instead you observe life and allow it to happen instead of allowing yourself to live. And looking forward always to being happy, it is inevitable that we are never so. So like I said earlier, most people put their happiness in the end results. I'll be happy when I get this level of success. I'll be happy when I have this or this or this or this. Okay, no. If you base your life off of that, you will never find any satisfaction. If you are able to find happiness in the process, that is the true solution. Sorry. I have found that one of the commonest causes of unhappiness among my patients is that they are attempting to live their lives on the deferred payment plan. They do not live nor enjoy life, but wait for some future event or occurrence. They will be happy when they get married, when they get a better job, when they have the house paid for, when they get their children through college, when they have completed some task or won some victory. Invariably, they are disappointed. Happiness is a mental habit, a mental attitude, and if it is not learned and practiced in the present, it is never experienced. It is so much easier to find happiness today than it is to find happiness in the future. It's really that simple. It's like you need to understand that you in every moment could find something about your life that you appreciate. You in every moment could find something to smile about. Think about the greatest moments in your life. Are they the big grand achievements? For me, they're not. For me, the best moments of my life are when I'm sitting around a campfire, when I'm sitting at the dinner table at Thanksgiving, and I'm just with my family. I'm not worried about the past. I'm not worried about the future. I'm just sitting there, enjoying the company of people I love, having a good meal, and just being content. And that's all happiness is. You can't describe happiness as anything else aside from pure presence in the moment and pure acceptance of life as it is and not worrying about things that you can't control. That is happiness. Happiness is a mental habit which can be cultivated and developed. Most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be, said Abraham Lincoln. Happiness is purely internal, said psychologist Dr. Matthew and Chappelle. It is produced not by objects but by ideas, thoughts, and attitudes which can be developed and constructed by the individual's own activities irrespective of the environment. Think about the idea that there are people who drink because their parents were alcoholics, and there are people who do not drink and will never drink because their parents were alcoholics. It's this idea. It's we can accept the circumstances and respond how we see fit. But for many people, they're broken by circumstance instead of inspired by circumstance. And really, a fundamental aspect of happiness is always being able to see the silver lining. The idea of amor fati, the idea of loving your fate, loving everything that happens to you, because it prepares you to face the challenges of life. It prepares you for the things that you're going to need to be ready to do, the steps that you're going to be needing to take in order to find your salvation, in order to find your happiness. No one other than a saint can be 100% happy all the time, and as George Bernard Shaw quipped, we would probably be miserable if we were. Think of the idea that you need you need sorrow for you to be able to experience happiness, because it's the ebb and flow, it's the push and pull. Like when things have been going bad for so long, you have to see that things are going to start to get good, because if you can't see the silver lining in sorrow, then you're missing the whole point. It's that when bad times come, we understand that the good times mean that much more. And when good times come, we understand that the bad times are coming soon, so we better enjoy the time. And there's this certain push and pull of life that we all need to begin to accept, because when we can accept it, then we can ride the wave. Then we can do the right thing in the right circumstance. Stop letting things push you around. The best cure I have found for this sort of thing is to use unhappiness's own weapon, self-esteem. Have you ever been to a TV show and seen the master of ceremonies manipulate the audience? I asked a patient. He brings out a sign which says applause, and everyone applauds. He brings out another which says laughter, and everyone laughs. They act like sheep as if they were slaves, and meekly react as they are told to react. You are acting the same way. You are letting outward events and other people dictate to you how you should feel and how you should react. You are acting as an obedient slave and obeying promptly when some event or circumstance signals you to be angry, get upset, or now this is time to feel unhappy. Learning the happiness habit, you become a master instead of a slave, or as Robert Louis Stevenson said, the guy that wrote Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the habit of being happy enables one to be freed or largely freed from the domination of outward conditions. Happiness is a mindset. It's not something that is dictated by external circumstances. It's the internal confidence. It's the ability to remain present. It's the ability to remove yourself from whatever scenario and appreciate the things that you do have. I truly believe and firmly believe that all happiness is derivative of gratitude. All happiness is derivative of your ability to accept the things that you can't control and understand that, you know what, however bad I think things are, I have this. I am so lucky because at least I'm alive. Think of how many countless people are dead that I don't know if you believe in an afterlife, but I promise you they probably wish they were back here. There was probably so many people on their deathbeds that wanted to do more and no longer have the opportunity, but you still have the opportunity to change. You still have the opportunity to grow. You still have the opportunity to right your ship and take yourself out of the current path you're on that you do not like. And that alone is the greatest gift that you could be ever be given. That alone is you winning the lottery 10 times over. Your opinion can add to unhappy events. Even in regard to tragic conditions and most adverse environment, we can usually manage to be happier, if not completely happy, by adding to the misfortune our own feelings of self-pity, resentment, and our own adverse opinions. Okay, so I have a really good example here. Sometimes I'll be having a bad day, and I'll drop my phone, or something will fall, or some minor inconvenience happens. And I'll say to myself, oh, why can't I just be lucky? Why can't I just have this? And it's like, I'm actively making my life worse because a minor thing happened and I'm building it up to be some great tragedy simply because of my self-wallowing, simply because of my self-pity, simply because I'm unable to understand that, you know what, not every day is going to be perfect. Not every day is going to be fun. Not every day I'm going to get great news. And the more you can just start to see how dumb you're being, see how self-sabotage you're being, it's so much easier to break yourself out of this habit, because I need you to understand that any habit, any mood, any emotion you have can simply be transmuted into something different. That is the secret of alchemy. The secret of alchemy is that everything that you put your energy and attention to can be directed into something better and something more positive. This is Carl Jung's entire life summed up in one sentence. You can use your energy for good instead of for bad. The attitude that makes for happiness. It has been pointed out earlier that since man is a goal-striving being, he is functioning naturally normally when he is oriented towards some positive goal and striving towards some desirable goal. Happiness is a symptom of normal, natural functioning, and when a man is functioning as a goal striver, he tends to feel fairly happy regardless of circumstance. Think about following your dreams, think about following your passions. Always put things in perspective. A lot of times I'll be discouraged when I make these videos and it doesn't quite, resonate with people the way I want to, but the thing is, I'm chasing my dreams. This is what I want to do. I do not care about the external results. It does not matter. I am doing what I love and I'm getting better at it every day. So why can't I just appreciate that? It's always putting things into perspective. It's always understanding that the more you fail, the more you struggle, the more times that you fall short, the more opportunities you have to learn and grow, and the more it's going to mean when you're at that mountaintop. So enjoy the journey, enjoy the struggle. There's going to be a day where you no longer struggle, and there's going to be a day where it loses all its meaning because it's a hollow victory now. It's just something that you can do with ease. But when something's difficult and then you finally get that reward, that's when it's worth it. So just enjoy the process while it's happening. Think about all of the stories of people who made it rich, and they think back to the days where they had nothing, and they really enjoy that time when they were hungry, that time when they were grinding, that time when they were on their way up. It's that idea. Systematically practice healthy mindedness. The measure of mental health is the disposition to find good everywhere, said the most famous moralist Ralph Waldo Emerson. I love Emerson. If you've never read Emerson, I really urge you to, because all of the ideas from this are echoed in his writing. The idea that happiness or keeping one's thoughts pleasant most of the time can be deliberately and systematically cultivated by practicing in a more or less cold-blooded manner strikes many of my patients as rather incredible, if not ludicrous, when I first suggested. Yet experience has shown not only that this can be done, but that it is about the only way that the habit of happiness can be cultivated. Okay, so what he's going to continue to say is more or less what I'm about to say, is that the more you can respond, the more you can take the bird's eye view perspective, the more you can see the bigger picture, the more you can see the silver lining. So it's very difficult when something's right in front of your face to see the whole picture, to see everything that's happening. But let's say you have a huge failure. Let's say you have a huge setback. Maybe that stings in the moment, but the more you can take yourself out of that scenario, the more you can stop reacting in that moment, the more you can start looking a year down the line, 10 years down the line, whatever it is, and see that this is actually the greatest catalyst for growth, then you can see the silver lining. Like in every failure is the seed of victory. In every failure is the reframing that you need to get better, to be then good enough to succeed. And the more we can start doing this, the more we can start taking control of our life. When you are broken down by circumstance, you will forever be broken. When you are built up by circumstance, then there is nothing stopping you. If you countless times fail and keep pushing and keep learning and keep growing, nothing will ever stand in your way. That is the most important thing you will probably hear in this video. I know I said that earlier, but that is probably the most important thing. It is not failure if you keep pushing. It is only failure when you give up. Okay, let's get how to learn the happiness habit. Our self-image and our habits tend to go together. Change one and you will automatically change the other. The word habit originally meant a garment or clothing. We still speak of riding habits and habiliments. I don't know what that means. This gives us an insight into the true nature of habit. Our habits are literally garments worn by our personalities. They are not accidental or happenstance. We have them because they fit us. They are consistent with our self-image and our entire personality pattern. Think if you're somebody that self-loathes, think if you're somebody broken by circumstance, it's because you've done it your entire life. So if you want to change yourself, you need to change your thoughts, your ideas, your conceptions, your habits, your go-to. Everything is derivative from thought. Everything is derivative from how much attention, energy, and time you give to it. The pianist does not decide which keys to strike. The dancer does not decide which foot to move where. The reaction is automatic and unthinking. In much the same way, our attitudes, emotions, and beliefs tend to become habitual. In the past, we learned that certain attitudes, way of feeling, and thinking were appropriate to certain situations. Now we tend to think, feel, and act the same way whenever we encounter what we interpret as the same sort of situation. What we need to understand is that these habits, unlike addictions, can be modified, changed, or reversed simply by taking the trouble to make a conscious decision and then by practicing or acting out the new response or behavior. The pianist can consciously decide to strike a different key if he chooses. The dancer can consciously decide to learn a new step, and there is no agony about it. It does not require constant watchfulness and practice until the new behavior pattern is thoroughly learned. Okay, so think of a common shortcoming. Think of a thing that you struggle with. The next time you struggle with it, ask yourself why you did that. Ask yourself why you messed up. Don't dwell on it. Don't get angry about it. Don't add any emotion to it. Don't add any fuel to the fire. Just recognize where you went wrong. Recognize why you started snacking because you said you were going to be good on the diet, but now you're not good anymore. Like, what did you do? Where did you go wrong? And how can you consciously make a better decision next time? How can you make a decision that's a little bit better? Stop stacking your cabinets with junk food. Stop going to McDonald's. Go to Chipotle instead. I know they're owned by the same people, but one's a little bit healthier than the other. It's like we can, in every way, adapt our habits, adapt the way we respond, always make a little bit better of a decision. That is really the key with it. Make a little bit better of a decision than you would otherwise. It's not about fundamentally changing who you are. You can fundamentally change who you are, but when it comes to habits, all you need to do is point yourself in a better direction and slowly build upon it. That is the key with these things. It's not the quick changes that we make that last. It's the changes that we slowly make that become permanent, that really change who we are. Practice exercise. Habitually, you put either your right shoe first or your left shoe. Habitually, you tie your shoes by either passing the right hand lace around behind the left hand lace or vice versa. Tomorrow morning, determine which shoe you put on first and how you tie your shoes. Now consciously decide that for the next 21 days, you're going to form a new habit by putting on the other shoe first and trying your lace a different way. Now each morning you decide to put your shoes in a certain manner. Let this simple act serve as a reminder to change other habitual ways of thinking, acting, and feeling throughout the day. Say to yourself as you tie your shoes, I am beginning the day in a new and better way, and consciously decide that throughout the day, 1, I will be as cheerful as possible. 2, I will try to feel and act a little more friendly toward other people. 3, I'm going to be a little less critical and a little more tolerant of other people, their faults, failings, and mistakes. I will place the best possible interpretation upon their actions. 4, insofar as possible, I'm going to act as if success were inevitable and I already am the sort of personality I want to be. I will practice acting like and feeling like this new personality. 5, I will not let my own opinion color facts in a pessimistic or negative way. 6, I will practice smiling at least 3 times during the day. 7, regardless of what happens, I will react as calmly and as intelligently as possible. 8, I will ignore completely and close my mind to all those pessimistic and negative facts which I can do nothing to change. Simple, yes, but each of the above habitual ways of acting, feeling, thinking does have beneficial and constructive influence on your self-image. Act them out for 21 days, experience them, and see if worry, guilt, hostility have not been diminished and if confidence has not been increased. Okay, so that is the end of the chapter. And what do we do with this information? What can we parse from this? What can we understand? More or less what this chapter taught us was that everything is derivative of our thoughts. Every emotion, every feeling, and everything that happens to us is purely a result of our ideas, our conceptions, and how we accept the world to be. And if you don't like your life, you need to change the way you think. I don't know how else I can say this, but if you see the world and it looks bleak, it's because that's the lens you're seeing the world from. If you begin to see the positive, if you begin to shift your lens to one that is more accepting, one that is more inviting, one that is more happy, you will find so much more in this world. You will find so many better people to spend your time and energy and effort with. The more attention you give to negative things, the more they appear in your life. The more you worry about things, the more they become an issue. The less you worry about these things and put all of your time, energy, and attention into things that matter, the happier and the healthier you will be. I need you to understand this. Like, a very good example is people will be haters of other people and spend all of their time trying to get back, trying to get revenge, thinking about this person, hating them, cursing their name, and meanwhile you could spend that exact same energy into someone you love. You could express that emotion in a positive way. You could express that emotion in a way that is developing not just your relationship, but yourself as well. Because your capacity for love is directly correlated with your capacity for happiness. And the more you can just give emotions in a healthy way, the more your life is going to improve. And it sounds very simplistic. It sounds very easy, but it's very difficult because our entire lives we've been told to think otherwise. Our entire lives we've been told to compare ourselves to others. We've been told that, well, when you have this, then the world will be happy. Oh, you need money to be happy. You need this to be happy. You need this to be happy. And the truth is, you don't need anything except yourself to be happy. And the moment you can start finding you can find happiness in yourself is the moment that you've solved all of your problems in this world. Everything else is easier when you can be happy and you can be healthy and you can move through this world with a better mindset. Everything else will go smoothly if you could just keep these things in mind. With that said, I'm going to continue to go through this book. They are tremendous so far. If you want to read my book, the link is in the description. If you don't, I still love you. Don't worry. Thank you guys so much for all the support recently. It's awesome to see. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Okay, today we get back to Cybernetics, a series I completely forgot I was doing. And today's chapter is Chapter 8, Ingredients of the Success Type Personality and How to Acquire Them. And really what this chapter is about is what sets people apart that are successful from people that are not. And it's just a few simple ways of reframing things. It's just a few simple ways of thinking about things that are going to really open you up to the possibility of being everything that you can be. Because I want you to think of yourself in two ideas. Think of yourself as somebody that's defeated by fear. Maybe this is the current version of you. And then think about somebody that is open to the possibility, that is receptive to their mistakes, that is able to learn from their mistakes and then forget about them and continue to strive and has a defined goal and a defined direction and knows where they're going and knows that in every defeat is the seed of victory. And that's really what this chapter is about. I think it's a very interesting chapter, and I'm going to go over some of the finer points and talk about them. So hopefully you guys stay tuned for that. Okay. Just as doctors learn to diagnose disease from certain symptoms, failure and success can also be diagnosed. The reason is that a man does not simply find success or come to failure. He carries their seeds around in his personality and character. I found one of the most effective means of helping people achieve an adequate or successful personality is to first of all give them a graphic picture of what a successful personality looks like. Remember, the creative guidance mechanism within you is a goal-striving mechanism, and the first requisite for using it is to have a clear-cut goal or target to shoot for. Okay, so I'm just going to go into the real meat and potatoes of this chapter. The picture of success. In this chapter, I'm going to give you the same prescription that I would give you should you come to my office. I have found that an easy-to-remember picture of successful personality is contained in the letters of the word success itself. The success type personality is composed of S, sense of direction, U, understanding, C, courage, C, charity, E, esteem, S, self-confidence, S, self-acceptance. So I'm not going to do what I normally do in these videos, which kind of go through the entire chapter. I don't think it's going to be as productive for this, but I'm going to talk about what these things mean to me and what he means in terms of building upon past, building into a better person, understanding where you're going. Because I think the difference between somebody that's successful and somebody that is not successful is the ability to have faith in themselves, the ability to believe in the process, the ability to have fun in the process. Because we can all create these grand goals, we can all create these grand things, but what happens when you fail? What happens when you take the first step and completely fall and completely whiff, and now you have to refine your balance? Now you have to get over that insecurity that you feel. Now you have to get over that fear, that anxiety, that fear of what people are going to say about you. And I think the difference can be found in these words, and that's why I'm going to explain them through my perspective. So, number one, sense of direction. Think about this as like you need to know where you're going before you can get to the place that you want to go. Do you immediately just start driving, or do you put something into your GPS before you've been there before? And that's really this idea. It's like, where are you heading? Where are you going? And are you going in the right direction? And I think this is a constant battle of, am I doing this? Am I doing it the right way? And I think you oftentimes have to refocus and look in the mirror and say, is this the right direction I'm heading, or am I going a little off course? And I think this is a constant battle with looking at where you're going, evaluating it, redirecting yourself, and keeping yourself in a positive direction. Because I promise you, it's not that difficult to get in a better situation. It's just about directing yourself for long enough and doing the good habits, doing the good things, doing the things that are developing you instead of the things that are stagnating you on a daily basis. The next one is understanding. Understanding is simply about being honest with yourself and being able to look at things objectively and look at things factually. There's a big difference between what actually happens and what we take from things. Think about an argument you have where the person is clearly in the wrong, and I'm not absolving you of any sort of responsibility. I'm just saying, like, a scenario where something's completely wrong and somebody's unable to see that what they did was also wrong, and you're like, this is pretty evident, pretty obvious. Why can't you admit that they're wrong? But in their eyes, they're not seeing the truth. And we have this bias in our perception. We have this bias in the way that we see things. And sometimes we can't see the truth because we're too close to it. Sometimes we have to take a step back and actually evaluate things. You know, let's say something really bad happened to you. Let's say you had a great defeat, a great failure, but in fact, that's the stepping stone to great success. Like, I had a huge setback in my life a few months ago, and it was the sole reason that I published my book. So in fact, it was a good thing. In fact, it was something that drove me to do something I've always wanted to do, and I was holding back, and I was, keeping myself reserved, and I was saying I'll do this in the future. But when I experienced this great defeat, I was like, you know what, I have to take a step forward, so why don't I do this? And I did that, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever done, and it would not have happened if I had not experienced this great hit to my ego. So always be able to reframe things, always be able to look at things differently, always try to take a step back and see it from another person's perspective, see it from a bird's eye view. Like, in everything we can reframe our experience. I oftentimes say this, but there's people who drink because their parents were alcoholics, and there's people who will never drink because their parents were alcoholics. And it's about you and how you internalize it and how you move forward with your experience. It could be your greatest achievement that comes from this pain, this hardship, or it could be your greatest defeat. And it's all about the way we reframe things and the way we take things. 3 is courage. I think this is pretty evident. We all have those goals. We all have the things that we want to do, but it's very few people that have the courage to go out there and do it. And it's just understand that you're not going to be good right away. Understand that you're going to have to fail 1,000 times. Understand that whatever pain and hardship that's going to come to you, it's not as bad as the pain and hardship that will come from not knowing. And I think when you reframe it this way, and when you understand that, like, if you don't live up to your potential, the only person that you're letting down is yourself. And it's like, who cares what other people say about you? Who cares what other people think about you if you enjoy your own company, if you enjoy who you are? And I think that's so essential to living a good life and living a happy life. And it's very weird that we don't take these things into consideration at all. And it's really something I want you to start working for, is that I can do this. I may not be good enough today, but I will be good enough in the future. And just continually go forward with this idea of faith, with this idea that you have this path, and if you stick with it, you will succeed. And if you are undying in this fortitude, if you're undying in this conviction, I think you're going to stand a really good shot. 4, charity. This is more of a I guess you'd say metaphysical or esoteric concept, but if you do something and it only benefits yourself, I don't think it's going to bring you any happiness. Think about people that win the lottery. It's pretty hollow. It's pretty empty. They get millions and millions of dollars, but they usually end up spending it in the worst ways possible. And it's because they didn't do anything good with it. They didn't do anything purposeful. How many people set up a business or set up a charity that benefited people? And, through that, they were able to find more purpose and meaning. Literally just look at all of the philanthropists now. I mean, we can look into their purpose for creating these charities, but like, think of how many rich people start charities. Think of how many people that make a lot of money try to give back. And it's because once you have money, you understand how it's not the only thing, and that the way that you treat people and the way that you act towards other people is much more important, so that, through the course of your journey, through the course of picking yourself up and building yourself up into something, you have to also have a consideration that, you know what, this means nothing if I don't use this newfound strength, this newfound power to lift other people up, because, it's a very, very, very lonely path if I just do this alone. And it takes a village, and I should give back to the people that help me. I should help out the people in my community. I should help out the people in my family. And I think, a noble pursuit such as this is going to bring you so much more fulfillment than you could ever imagine. And it's essential to living a good life. It's essential to having that humility, because, think of how many people have gotten to the upper echelon of things and forgotten where they came from, forgotten their identity, forgotten what got them there, and because of this, it led to their downfall. Think of Caesar, think of Alexander, think of anybody who has that hubris, who forgets their roots, and charity is just a way to counteract this. Esteem, just think of esteem as the way that you view yourself and the way that you approach every situation. And let's say you have one of two ways. I think we can break it down pretty easily into one of two ways. You walk into a interview and you believe you're going to get a job, versus you walk into an interview and you don't believe you're going to get a job. The person that walks in and believes that they're going to get the job immediately stands a better chance than the person who doesn't, simply for the fact that they haven't already defeated themselves. Your greatest enemy when it comes to any challenge is yourself. The moment you start doubting, the moment you start having anxiety, the moment you start having fear, you freeze up. It's like Dune says, fear is the mind killer. The moment you're afraid is the moment you can't think anymore. If you can't think clearly, how are you going to act clearly? How are you going to approach the situation clearly? I don't know about you, but I've never experienced any moment of stress where I made the best decision. But when I'm able to calm myself down, when I'm able to take myself out of the situation and have a little bit of perspective, have that bird's eye view, I can take a step back and I can say, oh, I just need to do this. I just need to do this. And I immediately make a better decision than I would if I was so consumed in the moment, that I was so self-defeated, that I was telling myself, I can't do this. I have to do this and this and this and this. And it's like, I really want you to just play with these ideas and think about these ideas and notice yourself when you're stressed out. Notice the decisions you make and understand that I'm not going to make a good decision when I'm thinking like this, and I need to take a step back. I need to take a break. I need to get my mind off things so that I can be a better version of myself. Self-confidence is pretty evident. It's simply just believing that you can. A section of this chapter is very interesting when it was talking about boxers. Think about boxers on their come up. It's very important for them to slowly fight better and better and better people instead of just throwing them to the wolves, because in boxing in particular, if you have a loss, it's very hard to get those big money, big ticket fights, and you want to slowly build your fighter, slowly build his level of confidence, his level of proficiency, and really test him at a great rate. And Dr. Maxwell Maltz says to do something very similar, which is don't throw yourself to the wolves. Don't try to do something that you clearly can't do right away and then be surprised when you fail. It's not bad to try something that's beyond yourself, but it's bad to say that, well, I can't do this, and like you haven't put in the work to do that. Like if I started painting right now and then put my painting next to the Mona Lisa, would I be upset? No, because I haven't put all the time, effort, and energy into developing that skill. Maybe if I spent a lifetime doing it, maybe if I spent my waking days and nights and every aspect of myself into painting and I was still a terrible painter, maybe I'd be upset. But like it's understanding that you are at a certain place and you're building yourself up to another place, and you're always going to be faced with a little bit more of a challenge than the last time. And it's building yourself up to the point where you start down here and then you end up all the way here. And I think this is a very important way to put it, because so many people want to change the world in a day, and it's like, you can try to do that, maybe it works, but don't be surprised when it fails, and don't take it to heart when it fails, because it's a pipe dream. It's okay to have pipe dreams, it's okay to go out and try things, but it's not okay to be defeated by these things that you really have no right to do, that you really have no capability of doing. And I really just love this part of the chapter. So the last thing is self-acceptance. And I think this one is very important as well. Most of our lives we spend reframing ourselves in the context of other people. This is why it's so easy to point out our flaws. It's so easy to look in the mirror and say, I don't have this, I don't have this, I can't do this, I can't do that. Like, cool. we could sit here all day and do that, but like, what does that give us? What does that develop us into? How does that help us? You need to start understanding that you are who you are. You are who you are because of everything you've done, and it's okay. And if you don't like who you are right now, if you don't like the direction you're going right now, then you can change it. Everything is moving. Everything's in flux, and it's just something to experience. It's just a facet of your life right now that you need to get past. Like, if you're in a period of great hardship, if you're in a period of great pain, understand that everything ebbs and flows. That you're about to experience a lot of happiness because you went through all this struggle. Because you're about to come out on the other side, and having faced all these challenges, now life is going to seem easy, and it's okay. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be who you are today. Like, you could be someone else in the future. It's just like, I don't know if I can put this in a better way because it's such a simple idea, but it's such a profound one as well, because you're never going to be happy trying to be someone else. You're never going to be happy until you accept exactly who you are, exactly the things you like to do, and drive towards something that fulfills you. And until you do this, you're going to be continually lost. But a successful person knows who they are, knows what they want, accepts their place in life, and accepts that they are just experiencing the journey. So with that said, let me just make sure that's the rest of the chapter. Yeah, that's the rest of the chapter. I love you guys so much. I'm going to get back to doing this series more often. I don't know why I forgot about it. I just got sidetracked with other things. But yeah, it's a great book. Go ahead and check out the rest of the videos that I've made on it. And yeah, if you want another great book, go ahead and read mine. I don't know if I would consider it great, but yeah, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for all the support recently. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, we are back to Cybernetics. I think we are at chapter 9. Yeah, chapter 9. The failure mechanism. How to make it work for you instead of against you. And this is very much juxtaposed to the last chapter, which was the success mechanism. So if you haven't watched that, or maybe you want to go refresh, there will be a link at some point in this video to that video. But steam boilers have pressure gauges which show when pressure is reaching the danger point. By recognizing the potential danger, corrective action can be taken and safety assured. Dead-end streets, blind alleys, and impassable roads can cause you inconvenience and delays in your arrival at your destination if they are not clearly marked and recognized for what they are. However, if you can read the signposts and take proper corrective action, detour signs, dead-end street signs, and the like can help you reach your destination easier and more efficiently. So you can tell what this chapter is going to be about. Essentially, it's just about reframing failure, reframing the way that you view things, and changing your approach. Because I need you to understand that if you're going to do anything in this world, you're going to be approached with failure unless you just sit in your room all day and don't ever go out into the world and don't ever try to do anything. Go ahead and have fun with that if you think that's going to make you happy. I don't know if that's really the path to life, and I'm not saying you need to go out and do grand things, but I'm just saying that your life needs to be about something, and you need to direct your energy to something. And if you're forever afraid of failure, then you're forever afraid of success, because in every failure is the seed of success. In every instance is the opportunity to learn and grow, and that's really what this chapter is talking about. The picture of failure. Again, I have found that patients can remember these negative feedback signals, or what I call failure mechanisms, when they associate them with the letters that make up a word, failure. They are F, frustration, hopelessness, futility; A, aggressiveness, misdirected, in parentheses; I, insecurity; L, loneliness, in parentheses, lack of oneness; U, uncertainty; R, resentment; E, emptiness. So I'm not going to necessarily read every part of this chapter. I'm just going to explain it in my own words. I read it previously, and I went back and went through it before I'm making this video, and I'm really just going to give you the key takeaways. By all means, please go back and read this book. Please go back and read this chapter in specifics. And I think if we can start reframing the way that we see failure, we can open ourselves up to the possibility of success. Because I need you to understand, if you walk into a problem and you're immediately defeated, then you're not going to solve it. And what happens the first time that you have a goal and you face defeat? What happens? Do you immediately fold? Do you immediately pack your bags and go? Are you afraid of going out and failing again? And if those are the answers, then you're not going to get where you want to go. You're not going to achieve that thing. And yeah, that's why this chapter is so important. That's why this book is so important. Number 1, frustration. Frustration is an emotional feeling which develops whenever some important goal cannot be realized, when some strong desire is thwarted. I want you to just think of frustration as you put your effort and time and energy into something and you just come up short. For whatever reason, you're not good enough, whether it's bad luck, whether you just prepared wrong, whether you were completely blindsided by a variable that you didn't consider. Frustration is something that we all face, and it's just how we deal with frustration, understanding that every time something goes wrong, it doesn't mean you have to get all up in arms about it. Sometimes things go horribly wrong and it's okay to be upset for a time, but it's not okay to linger on them. It's not okay to allow it to defeat you for the rest of your life. I oftentimes say this, it's not failure until you give up. It's only failure when you actually stop trying to do what you're trying to do. But if you lose, it's just a temporary loss. It's just a lesson that you've learned. It's just an experience that you've had. Now you know what not to do next time. Now you know how much more you need to prepare. In some way, you become better because of this failure. And in some way, the success is going to feel that much more, because if you went out for a goal and you got it day one, would it mean anything? Or would it mean more if you tried and failed for years upon years upon years upon years and then succeeded? Because that victory was earned with blood, sweat, and tears. That victory was earned with so much more effort than the person that just got it day one. So understand that your frustration is the greatest thing that you can experience, because without experiencing pain, you can't experience pleasure. As Khalil Gibran said, every sorrow deepens your joy. The second part is aggressiveness. And I think this is a natural reaction to any sort of failure. Think about, whether you lost in a sports game when you were little, or whether you got fired or something went wrong. Like, the immediate reaction is always anger, is always to lash out, is always to use that first grasp of emotion. And when people listen to this voice, it's usually not for the best. And what this part is basically saying is that after a failure, how do you react? How do you respond? Do you allow the emotions to take over you? Do you allow yourself to act irrationally? Because when have you ever done something out of anger that was the right decision? Maybe there's a few instances in your life, but broadly speaking, whenever you act with haste, whenever you act with anger, you're usually doing something that is not productive. And this is the biggest part of this chapter, is that you have to take failure as a productive step. If you allow failure to build yourself up, then you have taken advantage of the failure. But if you allow failure to defeat you, if you allow failure to get you off your base, then you're missing the point. You're missing the stepping stone. You're not understanding that I need to be faced with this so that I can get to this goal. Without these lessons being learned now, I'm not going to learn them, and I'm not going to be able to pick myself up and come back better in the future. And essentially that's what this is saying. It's that take that passion, take that pain, take all of this anguish that you had from this experience, from this failure, from this misstep, and put it into something productive. You know what? You failed this thing, so you have all this energy now to start preparing for the next time. Now you know what it feels like to fail, and you don't want to feel it again. So the next time it comes about, you're going to really be on your P's and Q's. You're really going to prepare yourself in the right manner. 3, insecurity. This is a big one. This is one that I think most of us are faced with. And insecurity is just the idea of walking into a situation and not feeling like you're good enough. And we all face insecurities. We all face things that we deal with on a daily basis. But what I want you to understand is that you're measuring yourself up to an ideal. You're measuring yourself up to an imaginary person. When you look to someone else and you say, well, this person was able to do this, well, this person was able to do this, you see them in this mythic scale, you see them in this mythic image, and you don't see all of their missteps, you don't see all of their failures, you don't see all of their self-doubts, you just see the end result. And just understand that if you're aiming in the right direction and you're making progress and you're getting better and you're getting closer and you're having fun, that's all you need to have. The more you think about the end result, the less likely you are to get it, because the more you're going to start second guessing yourself. But when you focus on the process, when you focus on the day-to-day grind, when you focus on having fun along the journey, it's really, really, really easy to stop being so insecure. It's really easy to stop being so concerned about the end goal. Like, when you do something with the end in mind, that's when you're putting yourself in this state of comparison, in this state of insecurity, in this state of inferiority. Whereas if you just approach the problem with a smile, with a little bit of silliness, with a little bit of, I'm just going to go out there, try my best, and have as much fun as possible, and really, really, really give it my all. And I don't care what happens as long as I enjoy the process and as long as I learn something. That's the path forward. 4, loneliness. And this is the idea that, like, you have to shut yourself in, you have to go monk mode, you have to just take yourself away from others and take yourself away from the people around you that are there to support you. And it goes back to that saying that it takes a village. And I truly think that any single great achievement really has been done because people had people that believed in them, people had people that supported them. And your friends are there and your friends are willing to help you. It's just you have to be willing to ask. And there's been so many times in my life where I was dealing with things that I just didn't, stick my hand out there and reach out and talk to the people that wanted to talk to me. And looking back, I feel like I could have gotten over so much heartbreak and so much suffering and so much just things that I didn't have to go through simply because I was in my own head. I was my own worst enemy. And if I had just taken that third person's point of view, if I had just asked a person, hey, what should I do here? Even if they don't give me an answer, even if they just listen, there's something about this experience. There's something about the camaraderie. There's something about just being around somebody, spending time with somebody else that just takes you out of the seriousness of yourself, takes you out of, oh, well, if I don't do this, then nothing's going to happen. If I can't get this job, then my world's going to end. And it's like, take some time, have some fun, enjoy yourself. Don't miss out on relationships. Don't miss out on friendships because you want to be so serious, because you think life is so important and you need to get this job and you need to grind and you need to hustle and you need to do all these things. There needs to be appreciation. There needs to be resetting. There needs to be gratitude. And this all comes from spending time with other people and divorcing yourself from the problem. How many times have you been working on a problem and you can't seem to fix it, but you take 10, 15 minutes, maybe you call your friend, maybe you go on a walk, maybe you just take your eyes off of it and you return, your perspective is refreshed and you just have the solution. What this chapter is saying is that don't neglect your time with other people. Don't neglect the ideas that other people impart on you. Don't neglect the wisdom and the guidance other people can give you. Even if you're more educated than someone, even if you're more wise than people, like I can't tell you the nuggets of gold that I've gotten from people that aren't as educated as me, that aren't as well read as me, but because they see it from a third person's perspective, because they're a party that's not involved and not emotional, they give you the right solution. So don't overlook this tool. 5, uncertainty. And uncertainty is something I think petrifies all of us. This is the idea that no, I'm waiting for the perfect circumstances to ask out my crush that I've been in love with forever. And it's like, there's no such thing as perfect circumstances. There's no such thing as a better time than now. In every instance, you can find something wrong. In every instance, you can find something that's going to make yourself second guess. And it's like, if you forever, your whole life say, well, I'm going to start this project when I do this. I'm going to write this book when I do this. This is something I did recently. I've been saying forever I was going to write a book. And I had the stuff there. I really didn't write that much before I published it. But I didn't want to spend 5-6 hours compiling all this stuff, putting it, making the title, putting it all on Amazon, doing all that stuff. But when I did it, I was like, you know what? I could have done this months ago, and I could have had 3-4 more books out, or I could have, put more effort and more time into editing it and making it more tight and all of these other things. And it's like, just because I was unwilling to just take the first step, I didn't do something that I've wanted to do for a very long time now. And this is something that we actively do with ourselves on all bases, and especially when you're facing failure, especially when you're facing defeat, especially when you're facing something that you don't know if you can do or not. When you start making excuses, the excuses won't stop. At a certain point, you just have to take the first step. At a certain point, you just have to go out there and do it, because there's never going to be a better moment than now. If anything, the moment you start is the moment that you recognize, you know what, I should have started sooner, because I really would have been a lot farther down the line. And I think that's something that you will learn from anybody that's done anything great, is that they wish they started sooner. They wish they put themselves out there sooner. They wish that they had started, because they could be so much further along now. 6 is resentment, and I think you need to understand resentment from the idea of it's other people's faults but not mine. The system is out to get me. This person, they did this to me, so I can't do this. And it's like, you know what? Maybe you're valid in feeling this. Maybe you are. Maybe you're completely justified, but what does it serve you? And I don't know about you, but I don't like to believe anything that doesn't serve me. I don't like to believe anything that doesn't outwardly push me in a more positive direction. And the more I blame myself, and I'm not saying blame myself in you're a loser, you're this, you're that. No, I say blame myself in what could I have done better? How could I have approached the situation so that this person didn't have that much effect over me, or this person didn't have that much power over me? And I think that's really the way to move forward. That's really the way to get over things. I don't think blaming other people is ever going to do anything except solidify that you're a victim, solidify that you can't move on, solidify that you have no control over your life. And if you have no control over your life, then how can you fix things? What's the point in even going out there and trying? And I think this is a fundamental lesson that once you learn, you can actively start improving every facet of your life, because it applies to success, it applies to relationships. Think about every relationship you've been in, And I promise you that the moment you have a healthy relationship is the moment you can look back on all your past relationships and look at what you did wrong. I don't care how shitty that person was to you. I don't care what that person did to you. In every instance, you could have done something a little bit better. And when you take that lesson from it, when you take that lesson from things that have happened to you, then you can improve to be better in the future. And then you can use these experiences as things to uplift you, as things to never want to go back to, as things that you moved on from. But when you continue to linger, when you continue to blame, when you continue to hold this animosity and anger, all you're doing is allowing these people to still have an effect over you and still have power over you. And I want you to have the power in your life. I want you to have the say over what happens to you. And when you take responsibility, when you stop blaming other people, this is when you can start taking responsibility and making the changes that you want to be the person that you want to be. The last one is emptiness. And really what this is talking about is emptiness as in hollow achievements, emptiness as in I got to this goal, I got this level of success, I got to this mountaintop, but it still feels like nothing. And think about how many times where you said, well, my life will just be perfect when I have this. My life will be perfect when I have a little bit more money, or I get a job, or I get this, or I get that. And the moment you get that thing, it's good for a few weeks, but then you forget about it. It's like buying a new car. Your car, you love it when you first get it, but a year goes by, 2 years go by, you're like, well, I gotta fucking change the oil, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, like, oh, this sucks. Like, we oftentimes don't understand that what we're really looking for is a sense of purpose, a sense of fulfillment. And the things that we associate our happiness with are hollow pursuits, or empty pursuits. So really what this chapter is saying is like a person that's going to be a failure is a person that doesn't find something that motivates them, that doesn't make them want to get out of bed. And really it's about doing something that, one, you love, two, you're good at, and three, makes other people's lives better. And if you can find that in your pursuit, if you can find that in your career, if you can find that in your life, then you're going to live a happy life, and you're not going to have to measure success based off of worldly pursuits. You're just going to feel a depth in your heart. You're going to feel a warmth in your soul that is going to carry you through every day. And I think that's really, really, really essential to the idea of success. And Earl Nightingale, one of the first self-improvement guys, I think he put it very well, is that don't define success as how other people define success. Define success as the idea that you did something because you want to do it. You're a doctor because you wanted to be a doctor, not because people told you to. You're a teacher because you really have a passion for teaching, and you really see that you can make other people's lives better because you inspire people to do a certain thing. Like, don't do something because you were told to do it. Do something because it fills you up, because it's something that makes you happy. And yeah, that is the 9th chapter of Cybernetics. I mentioned my book at some point in this. If you want to read my book, go ahead, check that out. I think it has a lot of these ideas in there, but it's more philosophical, more poetic, more allegorical, and not as just right in front of you. But I think books like this are very effective for helping you to start thinking in certain ways, helping you to start changing the way you think in certain things, and reframing situations. The greatest thing you can do is look at your life in a different way. And if you could look at your life in a different way, then it appears different, that it affects you different, it changes the way that you view things, and allows you to deal with things better. And I just want you to think about it like this. If you in every moment made the best decision, then you in every moment would be living a life that was very fulfilling, that was very happy. And it's our pursuit, and it's our directing ourselves towards this goal that really starts to unfold the layers of our life, starts to push us past our problems, and make sure that we don't really struggle with anything. Like, probably the greatest thing of studying this book and studying other books like this is that it's really allowed me to deal with the problems that I deal with on a daily basis, and they don't even bug me anymore. Like, I was thinking today, I was in my car, and I was like, you know what, maybe I don't have everything I want, but I have everything I need. I have the ability to deal with the problems that face me on a daily basis. I'm capable of dealing with the struggles that used to break me down on a daily basis, and now they don't even affect me, and now I don't even think about them. And it's just an awesome feeling to say, and it's an awesome experience to have. So hopefully you guys are getting the same thing from this. Yeah, love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Support recently has been unreal. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one. Today we are back to Cybernetics. We are at a really good chapter today, a really important chapter today. It's chapter 10, how to remove emotional scars, or how to give yourself an emotional facelift. And this chapter is all about forgiveness. This chapter is all about moving past the things that have hurt you, the things that have wronged you, the people or the events that have forced you to stay stagnant, because it's really easy to look at the principles in this book and say, oh, well, I'm just going to be positive. I'm just going to go out into the world and, think myself to be a better person and act as if I've already done it and visualize and do all these things. But it's another thing to face your life and be faced with these emotional scarrings and these emotional baggage and all these things that tell you you're not good enough, that tell you can't change who you are, that tell you that this way of life is the only way that it can be. So that's what this chapter is about. I'm going to read the first page and then we'll get into the rest of it. When you receive a physical injury, such as a cut on the face, your body forms scar tissue, which is both tougher and thicker than the original flesh. The purpose of the scar tissue is to form a protective cover or shell, nature's way of ensuring against another injury in the same place. If an ill-fitting shoe rubs against a sensitive part of your foot, the first result is pain and sensitiveness. But again, nature protects itself against further pain and injury by forming a callus, a protective shell. We are inclined to do very much the same thing whenever we receive an emotional injury. When someone hurts us or rubs us the wrong way, we form emotional or spiritual scars for self-protection. We are very apt to become hardened of heart, callous towards the world, and withdraw within a protective shell. So think of somebody who just went through a breakup, or think about somebody that went through a really harsh breakup a few years ago, and they're still not putting themselves out there. That is an emotional scar. That is something that they are holding themselves back for. They're doing it because they feel like they're going to be hurt again. They're doing it out of fear, and you're not really going to be able to live your life to the fullest until you overcome all of these boundaries, until you overcome your own self-limitations. And it's much easier said than done, and I think this chapter does a very good job of getting into these things. So we're going to explore the ideas, we're going to talk about them, but please pick up this book. Please read this chapter yourself, because it's going to go into details that I'm not going to go into in this video. So the chapter starts off with three rules for immunizing yourself against emotional hurts. 1, be too big to feel threatened. And simply put, this is, like if you're walking by and somebody's like, oh, your outfit sucks, and like that destroys your day, like that's something you need to work on. That's something that you just need to get over, because you're never going to walk into this world and in everything everyone's going to like you. It's just something you have to accept. And the less you care about what people say is the more you give yourself the ability to be yourself. Because if you're constantly walking around the world in fear of what other people are going to say about you, then you're constantly going to hold back. You're constantly going to stop yourself from becoming all you can be. And don't take things to heart. When somebody insults you, it doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that, maybe there's some truth in it, but don't read too much into it, because there's always a way of criticizing somebody in a nice way. You can either say, well, you're an idiot for doing it this way, or you could say, why did you do it this way? It takes much more time. Why don't you just do it this way next time? Like, that's simple fix, but the difference is one person is somebody who's pissed off at their life, and the other person is a person that is calmed down. So like, whenever somebody insults you, don't take it personally, because that person's probably going through something anyway. You know what I mean? Like, who goes out of their way to hurt other people if their life already is perfect? The fact is that everybody that insults you, everybody that tries to bring you down, trying to compensate for their own lack of success in their life, their own lack of happiness. And whenever you keep these things in mind and just say, you know what, maybe they're right, but why am I putting my energy into it? Why am I putting my thought into this? Why am I allowing them to harm me so much? I think that's going to be a really useful exercise for you to do. The second rule is a self-reliant, responsible attitude makes you less vulnerable. And really this builds off the past rule, the past idea is that if you find happiness through your own satisfaction, then you don't need it from anybody else. And if you don't need it from anybody else, then you're not looking for it from anybody else. And think about like the popular kids in high school. Like, were they really like popular because they were cool people, or were they popular just because they were hanging around other people and doing everything they said? And do you really want to be a yes man? Do you really want to be in these circles because you'll just do what everybody else is telling you to do, and you're just going to suck up to them and do all sorts of things and really just become a lesser version of yourself for the sake of popularity? And I think that's one of the worst aspects, and I obviously used a very simple example because it can be applied out into every facet of society. Think about people going on social media and following the trends and doing all sorts of stuff just so that they get views, just so that they feel validated about themselves, versus the person that just goes their own way and does their own thing. And maybe they don't get as much success, but if it's reliant on their own self-worth, then it's much more valuable. I don't know how else to say this aside from you're never going to be happy trying to please somebody else, but if you start pleasing yourself, not in that way. If you start doing things for yourself, if you start doing things that are fulfilling to you, then that's everything that you need in life, and you don't need to look anywhere else for any more happiness. And that's one of the most essential things that you could ever learn, and that's one of the best things I can ever tell you. Yeah, we're just gonna go on because I can't do it any better than that. 3, relax away your emotional hurts. Think of this idea as like rationalizing it. Like a really good exercise I like to do is, think about the problem. Why am I so upset about it? Why is it bothering me so much? And generally it's not really the problem. Generally there's just things going on in my life. Like, have you ever snapped on one of your friends and you say sorry and you're like, why was it being so mean to this person? Why did I snap on them? Why did I get so angry out of nowhere? And you just look at the situation and it's because the rest of your life was stressful. It's because other things were going bad. It's because things weren't going right. And that person didn't deserve that sort of anger. That person didn't deserve that sort of outburst. Well, guess what? That's the same thing that usually happens when people upset you. That's the same thing that usually happens with different situations in your life. And when you take that bird's eye view perspective and you start to kind of just, you know what, it's really not as bad as it seems. I'll get over this. When you start to think, you know what, every problem that I'm dealing with now, I'm not going to remember in 20 years. I'm not going to remember in 10 years. Even in a year, it's going to be so much less vivid and it's going to be so much less in my face. So why am I so in my head right now? And these rules, if you start to think about them, I think it's really going to benefit you and it's really going to push you in the right direction. And this leads into the next part of the chapter, actually the rest of the chapter, which is the idea of forgiveness. And we're going to get really into this idea because I think this idea is essential to getting rid of your baggage, to getting rid of everything. Let me just make sure. How to remove emotional scars. We can prevent and immunize ourselves against emotional scars by practicing the 3 foregoing rules. But what about the old emotional scars which were formed in the past, the old hurts, grudges, grievances against life, resentments? Once an emotional scar is formed, there is but one thing to do, and that is to remove it by surgery, the same as a physical scar. So this is an interesting idea here, and I'm going to explain it through my own methods because I don't necessarily think like the level of detail is as necessary to put in this video. But really, what I want you to do about your old emotional scars is I want you to break them down. I want you to take the other person's perspective because this is how you really get to forgiveness. This is how you really get over any sort of emotional transgressions. And, think about the worst thing in your life, the worst thing that has ever happened to you. That's the thing that you need to start with. That's the thing that you really need to get over. And for me, I can point to several different moments, and several moments bother me, and I've slowly worked my way through them. But the way that I've worked my way through it is just by taking the other person's side. Why did they do this thing to me? Why did they act in this way to me? Why did they decide to be an asshole or to do this certain thing that really upset me? Or why did this relationship fail? Why did these things break down? And when you see yourself through the other person's eyes, when you see that person's perspective, you can see that they probably were somewhat justified. They were probably hurt in the past and they took that anger out on me, or they did this thing because this thing happened to me. And it's not that I need to forgive them and become friends with them or, try to strike up a relationship again. But what I have to do is I have to stop thinking about them. I have to stop lingering on them. I have to stop allowing this emotional baggage to change the way that I'm approaching my life. Because if my life becomes worse because of a situation that happened in the past, then that means I'm living in the past. That means that person's living rent-free in my head. And I don't know about you, but I don't want these transgressions to affect me. I don't want negative things to pull into my future and make my future more negative. So thinking through these situations through this context, thinking through these situations and allowing yourself to forgive this person and forgiving yourself as well. There's so many things that I've done wrong in my life that for years I was like, why didn't I just do this? Why didn't I just do this? Why wasn't I better in this situation? And it's like, you know what? You were armed with information in that moment, and you were armed with fear and anxiety, and you made the best decision at the time that you thought you could do. And even if it's a mistake looking back, you didn't know in that moment, so cut yourself some slack. And when you can forgive yourself and others, then you can move forward. Then you can get over these emotional baggages and all of these traumas and these things that have been holding you back and these things that are keeping you from living your life. Because that's the worst thing, is that we allow things that happened to us in the past, that we allow these things to stop us from living. We allow these things to prevent us from being everything that we can be, from being the best version of ourselves, from living a happy life, from doing the things that we would really enjoy doing. And yeah, it's a tremendous chapter 10 of Cybernetics. I'm going to continue to go through the rest of the book. I don't remember how many chapters offhand are left, but We still got a big chunk of the book, so if you like this series, stay tuned. I'll put a link at the end of this video for the rest of the parts of this video, or the rest of the parts of this series. That should be a playlist, and everything should be added in there. But yeah, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. If you want to read my book, I have a book out. I'm working on something new too. It should be out in the next few days because I'm trying to put that together for Christmas so I can give it to people as gifts, and I have to pay for gifts. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, stay tuned for stuff that's coming out. If you want the stuff I write on a daily basis, go ahead, join the school community. If you just want the books, go ahead, get the books. If you're just here and just here for the ride, I appreciate you all the same. It's awesome that you would take time out of your day to spend some time with me, and it means the world to me that anyone would. So, love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, today we have another chapter of Cybernetics. Today's chapter is chapter 11, and it is titled How to Unlock Your Real Personality. And this chapter is super interesting because it's about the idea that we hold back parts of ourselves to fit in because people have said things about us, because we've failed in the past, and we have these, these aspects of ourselves that we're not quite confident in showing. And it's all about how to get this back, how to stop worrying about other people, how to stop putting so much mind into what other people think about you, that nagging voice in the back of your head that goes, you can't do this, you can't do that. And yeah, if any of that sounds interesting, stick around. Personality, magnetic and mysterious, something that is easy to recognize but difficult to define, is not so much something that is acquired from without as something that is released from within. What we call personality is the outward evidence of that unique and individual creative self made in the image of God, that spark of divinity within us, or what might be called the free and full expression of your real self. This real self within every person is attractive, it is magnetic, it does have a powerful impact and influence upon other people. We have the feeling that we are in touch with something real and basic, and it does something to us. On the other hand, phony is universally disliked and detested. Why does everyone love a baby? Certainly not for what the baby can do, or what he knows, or what he has, but simply because of what he is. Every infant has a personality plus. There is no superficiality, no phoniness, no hypocrisy. In his own language, which consists of either crying or cooing, the baby expresses his real feelings. He says what he means. There is no guile. The baby is certainly honest. He exemplifies the nth degree. Psychologic dictum, be yourself. He has no qualms about expressing himself. He is not in the least inhibited. Everyone has a personality locked up within them. And I'm going to start summarizing these things and read what I think is important, because we're going to be here all day if I read every single part of this entire chapter and then explain it. So we're going to start truncating that, and we're going to start just really focusing on the main point. But what Dr. Maxwell Maltz is saying here is that everybody has a personality that has kind of been beaten out of them. Think about when you were young and you were told to sit still, you raised your hand, you had to go to the bathroom, and you were told, no, we don't do that in this class. We wait till the bell's over. And like all these little things added up to you restricting yourself, you not doing what you want to do when you want to do it, you not being yourself in every moment. How many times have you caught yourself holding back simply because you're afraid of the social pressure? I'm not saying that in every moment you should say what's on your mind, especially if you're in a setting where you can lose your job or you can say something that's going to upset people. But I'm just saying, when you can be authentic, when you're allowed to have your defenses down, have your defenses down. And there's a big difference between being a nice person and being a nice person because you have to. And I think this is what a lot of people feel like they're longing for, and this is what a lot of people sense when they talk to somebody who is, in an HR department or has that corporate speak where they say great things, they say nice things, they dress up their language, but really they're doing something awful. Really, they're just being a hypocrite. The next main idea is excessive negative feedback is the key to inhibition. And essentially this is, you're telling yourself something is wrong, people are telling you something is wrong, you're just listening to the voices that aren't encouraging you. And the sad reality of life is that when you start a new project, when you start something new, everyone is going to tell you, you can't do this, you can't do that. And all they're doing is they're just basing it off their past experience. And that's not necessarily wrong. You know, a lot of people have reasonable expectations of themselves, but do you have a reasonable expectation of yourself? Probably not. You probably believe you're capable of so much more, but it's just listening to that voice that is inspired by hope, listening to that voice that believes that you're capable of doing something else, disregarding the circumstances, disregarding the history, disregarding all those instances where you failed, because that doesn't define you now. That defines the past you. But if you stick with that old set of beliefs, if you stick with that old personality, if you stick with the failures, then all you're going to see in the future is failure. And it's all about change. It's all about differentiating yourself now from the person who you used to be, learning from experience, and moving forward with that new experience. Excessive negative feedback equals inhibition. Obviously, that's just the same idea. Stuttering is a symptom of inhibition. Think about somebody who stutters. It's somebody who's unsure of themselves. It's somebody that has probably been yelled at or told that they were wrong in the past. And this is not always true, but you can definitely find a correlation with this, and you can definitely find a correlation when you stutter and when you fumble over your words that you're not so sure about it. You're worried about the consequences. You're worried about, maybe I have the wrong answer. Maybe I'm not smart. Maybe this, maybe that. And the more sure of yourself you are, the less you're going to fumble for your words. Conscious self-criticism makes you do worse. Think about it when you start a project. Think about when you start a new pursuit. When you do anything, what is your first thing that you think about? Do you walk into a project thinking, you know what, I can do this. You know what, I'm worthy of this. You know what, I don't know exactly how hard I'm going to work, but I know I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can, and I know if I put my best foot forward, I can do a great job. If you believe that, then you have a great chance of succeeding. And even if you don't succeed, if you take that attitude with you, you're going to at least learn from the experience. Versus if you go into a problem, if you go into a thing and you think, you know what, I'm not worthy, I can't do this, I don't deserve to be here. Well, guess what? You just solidify that there's no possibility that you will ever succeed, that you will ever get to that mountaintop. And once you have it stuck in your mind that you're not good enough, then you're not even going to look for the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to grow, because you don't feel that you're worthy, and you already set it in your head that you can't do something. And this little flip, this little change of the script is so important that, even if it's beyond your current skill set, just believe that you can do it. Believe that you've already done it, because you will surprise yourself. There's so many overachievers throughout history. There's so many people who did not deserve to be there, but got there anyway by sheer willpower and grit. And why not be one of those people? Excessive carefulness leads to inhibition and anxiety. Think of the person that, a good example for this is, a lot of people that I know are like, oh, you train MMA, you train jiu-jitsu. I always wanted to try that. I always wanted to do this, but it's just not the right time. Or, oh, I'm worried about getting injured, or, oh, this or that. Like, I've trained jiu-jitsu for thousands of hours at this point. I only had like one injury that took like a few months to heal. And it's like, most people aren't going to get to the level of seriousness to even get injured, let alone, basically, have to work their way back up and all this other stuff. Like, if you go to one trial class, if you like it or don't. And there's so many people that will never go to that first trial class, that first opportunity, simply because they're in their head that, well, I don't want to do this. This is not a good time. If I get hurt now, then it's going to be very bad, and it's going to be very difficult, and I'm scared. And like, when you have these thoughts in your head, just know that they're limiting, and just know that, maybe you don't want to do it. You either do it or you don't, and you just stop worrying about it. But the more you worry about it, the more you build it in your head, the more it becomes something that's petrifying. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you want to do it, take the first step. That's all I have on this section. William James's advice to students and teachers. So if you don't know who William James is, he's often considered one of America's great philosophers. He's really a psychologist. Some people call him the father of modern psychology. He was before Freud. He was before Jung. Very interesting stuff, and he has a lot of William James doesn't really read like a psychologist. He reads like a philosopher talking about religion. It's almost similar to Kierkegaard, but I don't know how he got wrapped up into psychology. It's kind of funny reading his work. You're like, this doesn't seem like psychology. Who are the scholars who get rattled in the recitation room? Ask the sage. The sage is William James. Those who think of the possibilities of failure and feel the great importance of the act. James continues. Who are those who do recite well? Often those who are the most indifferent. Their ideas reel themselves out of their memories of their own accord. Why do we hear the complaint so often that the social life in New England is either less rich and expensive or more fatiguing than it is in some other parts of the world? To what is the fact, if fact it be, due unless to the overactive conscience of the people afraid of either saying something too trivial and obvious or something insincere or something unworthy of one's interlocutor, or something in some way or other not adequate to the occasion. How can conversation possibly steer itself through such a sea of responsibilities and inhibitions such as this? On the other hand, conversation does flourish, and society is refreshing, and neither dull on the one hand, nor exhausting from its effort on the other. Wherever people forget their scruples and take their brakes off their hearts and let their tongues wag as automatically and irresponsibly as they will. That was so difficult to read because it's written in Old English, and I'm sorry that you had to witness me struggle through that, but there's a great point there. It's that the people that worry about the consequences, worry about the act of what they're doing, worry about the social norms and the rules and all sorts of stuff while they're conversing, while they're trying to convince you in an argument, are the people that struggle the most. Whereas the people that believe in their ideas, the people that just know that if I give it my best and I don't worry about anything and I just go out there and I try, I'm going to do great. Those are the people that succeed. And every time you get nervous, every time you are faced with a challenge that you don't know if you can do, what is going to be the worst thing for you to do is to worry about the outcome. You prepared for this, you put in the work, you practiced, you did all of these things so that you could give this presentation, and now you're going to be nervous. Why are you going to be nervous? It's the exact same thing as your practice. It's the exact same performance. If you go out there and you just do what you prepared to do, you're going to do great. But the more you fixate on the end results, the more you fixate on what could go wrong, the more likely it's going to go wrong. It's this weird idea of like, if you try to meditate, trying to meditate makes it more difficult. It's something you just have to do. You try to get all the thoughts out of your head. Really, really right now I need to use an example to show how important this idea is. Try not to think of $100 bill. You just did. Because it's the moment you try to think about something or try to push something out of your mind, you hold on to it more. You have to change your thought. You have to change your attitude. You have to change your actions. Don't renounce evil. No. What's the saying in the Bible? I can't remember it, but I'm too tired right now to remember the saying. But essentially, what I'm trying to say is that you don't get something out of your head by thinking. Try not to think about it. You get something out of your head by thinking of something different. And if you're in the moment and you're anxious and you're fearful, think about what you're doing. Don't think about the results. Think about, if I just give my best, if I just try, if I just do what I've trained to do or do what I've practiced to do, then I'm going to do great. Wow, I really butchered that Bible. Self-consciousness is really other consciousness. The cause and effect relationship between excessive negative feedback and what we call self-consciousness can readily be seen. In any sort of social relationship, we constantly receive negative feedback, data from other people, a smile, a frown, 100 different subtle clues of approval or disapproval, interest or lack of interest, continually advise us of how we're doing. And really what he's going to say in this section is that when you're self-conscious, it's not that you don't like yourself, you're worried about what other people are going to think about you. But I really need to free you from this bound. I really need to make you understand that when you worry about what other people think about you, you're worrying about a false idea, because most people don't care about you as much as you think about them, as much as you think they care about you. Somebody might be unhappy, somebody might be frowning at you, but is that really they don't like you, or is it they probably are just having a bad day? And it's never as deep as you think. It's never as serious as you think. And even if somebody doesn't like you, who cares? Genuinely, who cares if somebody doesn't like you? The greatest people throughout history had the most amount of haters. I could promise you, you talk about Napoleon today, even today, there's still all this propaganda about how short he was, about this, about that, about Josephine, about all of his downfalls. And this guy has been dead for almost 200 years? Maybe 300, I can't remember history off the top of my head, but it's ridiculous that somebody that did so many things in this world that was beloved by so many people is also hated by so many people. So just know, If you have a lot of love, you're also going to have a lot of hate. It's okay. Not everybody's going to like you. It's completely fine. The more you understand this and the less you worry about the things people say about you, the happier you'll be. Voice comes when you ignore excessive negative feedback. Think about this. You're going to do better if you're not worried about what other people are saying, if you're just acting, if you're just doing, instead of worrying about the criticism that you're going to receive. You need to be more self-conscious, and this is self-conscious in the sense of like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? What do you want to create? Not conscious of what others want to impose upon you. Conscious stuff make cowards of all of us, so said Shakespeare, and so the modern-day psychiatrists and enlightened ministers. So really what this is saying is like, the moment you start thinking about something, the moment you start worrying about something, it multiplies. The moment you start getting into these ideas and these ideations is the moment you get into a negative thought loop, and the moment that it starts to reign free in your head. Like I said earlier, try not to think of a $100 bill. You just did. Thinking about something is only going to make it multiply. Change what you're thinking about. Remove yourself from the situation. Take that bird's eye view perspective and return your attention to something that matters, something that's meaningful, something that builds you up instead of breaking you down. Okay, we're going to get into the last part of this chapter because I think a lot of these ideas are going to start to repeat themselves. And the last part of the chapter is the practice exercises. Practice exercise, step 1. Don't wonder in advance what you are going to say. Just open your mouth and say it. Improvise as you go along. Jesus advised us to give no thought as to what we would say if delivered up to councils, but that the Spirit would advise us what to say at the time. So this is something that I'm doing right now. I have no plans. If you could tell, I've had several errors in this, and I feel like it gives a level of authenticity. It gives a level of openness and honesty, and maybe it doesn't get as many views as the highly edited videos, but it has a realness to it. It has a rawness to it. You know exactly what I think because I just say it. And I think that's more beneficial to people that are trying to benefit themselves, people that are trying to uplift themselves versus, I create this fake persona of I do everything perfect. And, it's something that I've worked on a very long time. Like early on in the beginning, the advice that you get, especially when you're trying to make videos, there's an entire industry of people that try to help people on YouTube. It's insane the amount of views they get. It's insane the amount of people that want to become YouTube creators. But essentially a lot of the advice is like, create your avatar and then sell to that avatar. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I just want to speak from my heart. I just want to speak from my mind. I just want to be able to say things and not think about, does this benefit my sales pitch? Does this benefit the product I'm trying to sell? Does this benefit my image and my brand and all sorts of stuff like that? Like I think the people that have those drastic downfalls, like you see all those like internet documentaries of like YouTubers that had it all and then they fell and they really screwed up their own career. It's like those are people that were creating a fake persona, and the people that have a real persona are the people that you can't tear down, because what are you going to say about me that I don't already know about myself? I don't project to be anyone else, and I'm not, and I can tell you my downfalls. I'm open about my downfalls, and I think just having that level of honesty and that level of authenticity just really carries you in a conversation, really carries you in the things that you're going to say. And maybe people don't appreciate it. Maybe there's a lot of people that would rather me be fake, rather dress in my language, but that's not who I am. And the people that really get that are the people that I want in my life. The people that don't, it is what it is. And I'm really just saying this to add to this point. I'm not saying this is something that you need to do, but like the less you worry about what you're going to say, the more open and honest and free you are, and the more you're going to be able to develop your skill of communicating. 2, don't plan. Take no thought for tomorrow. Don't think before you act. Act and correct your actions as you go along. This advice may seem radical, yet is actually the way all servo mechanisms must work. A torpedo does not think out all its errors in advance and attempt to correct them in advance. It must act first, start moving toward the goal, then correct any errors which may occur. We cannot think first and act afterwards, said A.N. Whitehead. From the moment of birth, we are immersed in action, and can only fitfully guide it by taking thought. Okay, so what this is saying is very interesting and very important. You're worried about step 100 instead of worrying about step 1. You can only put one foot in front of the other, You can't take 2 steps at a time. That's just impossible. If you could take 2 steps at a time, then like I don't know what to say. Like, please show me. I'm very fascinated. But like, you can only do one thing at a time. And so many people are worried about the end goal and not worried about what's in front of them, that they are petrified by fear. You know, you can think of any example. You know, think about going into the gym, think about getting in shape. So many people are afraid about all of the hard work, but really all they have to do is show up to the gym, get that membership, start just looking around the gym, and maybe do 1 or 2 exercises, and then they can leave because they have something to build off of now. And now the first step is done. The second step isn't as scary. The first step is always the worst. Getting yourself up the courage to do something is always the hardest step. And it's the hardest because we're worried about everything else. We're worried about step 1,000. We're worried about step 2,000. We're worried about something that we're going to face 3 years down the line instead of worrying about what we can do right now. 3. Stop criticizing yourself. The inhibited person indulges in self-critical analysis continually. After each action, however simple, he says to himself, I wonder if I should have done that. After he has gotten the courage enough to say something, he immediately says to himself, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe the other person will take it the wrong way. Stop all this tearing yourself apart. Useful and beneficial feedback works subconsciously, spontaneously, and automatically. Conscious self-criticism, self-analysis, and introspection is good and useful if undertaken perhaps once a year, but as a continual moment-by-moment, day-by-day sort of second-guessing yourself, or playing Monday morning quarterback back to your past actions, it is defeating. Watch for this self-criticism, pull yourself up short, and stop it, okay? Could I have said something better? Could I have done something better in this video? Of course. I can always make these videos better. I could always go back and edit them. I can always go back and cut things out, but like, what did I do today? What did I put out? Did I put out something that I'm proud of? Did I put out something that, you know, has flaws but I am okay with? Yes, I did. So I can move forward. So I can you know, take what I did wrong today and then worry about it the next day. But when I second guess myself, when I look back at the things that I've done and I look back with regret or I look back with guilt, then I'm just bringing that guilt and regret into the present. It serves me no good to look at the things I've done, the mistakes I've made, and carry that shame, that guilt, that fear into this moment, because all I'm doing is recreating that in my next action. You are exactly what you carry into your next action. And because we're holding on to guilt, anger, rage, hatred, all sorts of negative emotion, of course our life is going to continue to have these same things. 5. Let people know when you like them. The inhibited personality is as afraid of expressing good feelings as bad ones. If he expresses love, he is afraid it will be judged sentimentally. If he expresses friendship, he is afraid it will be considered fawning or apple polishing. If he compliments somebody, he is afraid the other will think him superficial or suspect an ulterior motive. Totally ignore all these negative feedback symbols. Compliment at least 3 people every day. If you like what someone is doing or wearing, saying, let him know it. Be direct. I like that, Joe. Mary, that is a very pretty hat. Jim, that proves to me you are a small person. That's one. You can tell how old this book is because, Jim, that proves to me you're a swell person. I should say that to somebody today and see what they said. They said, and if you're married, just say to your wife, I love you, at least twice a day. Okay, so this last one's very important because there's this, you know, somebody that's very afraid of self-criticism is somebody that's really closed off. So the more you can express good emotions, the more you're able to deal with bad emotions because they're really just the same. I want you to think about it this way, like love and hate are the same force. They're just different polarities in the fact that like hatred is I have such strong emotions for this person that I want to do something bad to them, where love is I have such strong emotions for this person I want to show them about how great I feel about them. It's really just the same, it's just a different expression. And I think emotions as a whole are really just that. So if you can't express your emotions in a good way, you're going to express them in a bad way. As Carl Gustav Jung said, what you suppress will be expressed. And oftentimes, if we're not expressing our emotions in a positive way, we're going to express them in a bad way. So we have all this pent-up energy, we have this pent-up emotion. Why not put it for good? Why not learn how to transfer this energy into something positive? Because when you uplift others, you uplift yourself. Think, if you encourage people in your life to become all they can be, you are indirectly benefiting yourself, because those people around you are also going to inspire you to do better. So with that said, chapter 11, Cybernetics. If you want more from me, I just released another book. I don't know how many poems it is, but it's a bunch of poems. It's about, I think, 100 something pages. It's good. I enjoyed it, writing it, and I enjoyed putting it together. So the link will be in the description. With that said, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. Catch you in the next one. How often do we react to problems that really aren't problems? How often do we build things up to be such great obstacles in our life and they never actualize? How often do we worry for the sake of worrying? Well, if that sounded anything like you, and that sounded like a problem that you struggle with, I really urge you to stick around in this video, because we're going to talk about Cybernetics today, and in particular, chapter 12 of Cybernetics, which tackles this issue. This is a part of an ongoing series. The rest of the videos that I've done on this will be somewhere at the end of this video in a card, or just go on my channel, you'll find the playlist. But chapter 12, do-it-yourself tranquilizers which bring peace of mind. Tranquilizer drugs, which become so popular during the past few years, bring peace of mind, calmness, and reduce or eliminate nervous symptoms by an umbrella action. Just as an umbrella protects us from the rain, the various tranquilizers erect a psychic screen between us and disturbing stimuli. No one fully understands just how the tranquilizers manage to erect this umbrella, but we do understand why this brings tranquility. Tranquilizers work because they greatly reduce or eliminate our own response to disturbing stimuli. So what he's going to say is he's comparing this to how the mind works, and he's comparing how these drugs actively reduce how we respond. And he's going to say, if you can respond less aggressively, if you can respond with less stress and less emotion, then they won't appear as strong, these problems that arise. And think of the person that when somebody cuts them off, they freak out, they get angry, and they become enraged. Is that a person that deals with their emotions very, very well? Is that a person that deals with stimulus very well? And it's just a microcosm of a larger problem. It's somebody that doesn't deal with stress, doesn't deal with things going wrong in an effective manner, and they allow the world to get to them. And the truth is, the only power you have in this world is your reaction. So if you can reserve your reaction, if you can reserve your emotion and put it to the people that you love and the people that deserve it in your life, that's the greatest gift you can give. It serves you nothing to hate somebody. It serves you nothing to hold a grudge on somebody and continually allow them to control your action, continually allow them to dictate what you do in life because of this strong hatred or strong negative emotion you feel for them. And this is something that I've really, really tried to control and curtail in myself, and only put to the good things, because Lord knows whatever you want to see in this world, you will see more of. So why am I going to focus on the bad? Why am I going to focus on the things going wrong when I can focus on the things going right? Over-response is a bad habit which can be cured. Again, this is an idea that builds off of the thing I was just saying, that the more you react to something, the more of an issue it becomes. If you see a problem and you immediately start freaking out, the response you're going to have to that problem is going to be even worse, because you've stressed yourself out. You have this anxiety, this fear built up in you, and because of your reaction, your response to the problem is going to become worse. If you can stay calm in a stressful scenario, then you can make a better decision. But if you become wrapped up in your emotions and clouded by your emotions, then oftentimes you're not going to make the best decision. How to condition yourself for equanimity. In much the same way that you automatically obey or respond to the ring of a telephone, we all become conditioned to respond in a certain way to various stimuli in our environment. The world conditioning in psychologic circles grew out of Pavlov's well-known experiments where he conditioned a dog to salivate at the sound of a bell by ringing it just before presenting food to the dog. This procedure was repeated many times. First, the sound of the bell. A few seconds later, the appearance of food. The dog learned to respond to the sound of the bell by salivating in anticipation of the food. Originally, the response made sense. The bell signified food was forthcoming, and the dog got ready by salivating. However, after the process was repeated a number of times, the dog would continue to salivate whenever the bell was rung. Whether or not food was immediately forthcoming, the dog had now become conditioned to salivate at the mere sound of the bell. His response made no sense and served no good purpose, but he continued to respond in the same way out of habit. There are a great many bells or disturbing stimuli in our various environmental situations which we have become conditioned to and which we continue to respond to out of habit, whether or not the response makes any sense. Think about when somebody cuts you off. Think about when some bad news comes out on the news stations. Think about when your team loses. Are any of these problems actually significant? Are any of these problems actually affecting your day to day? You could maybe argue an extension, oh, price is going up, this, that, but is anything drastically changing the way you live? Is anything drastically affecting what is happening today? Because very infrequently are we giving the right level of reaction to the things that are going on in our life. A lot of times we like to build up the things that we really can't control, and we like to blame those things for why our life is going a certain way, and that becomes the boogeyman, that becomes the devil, that becomes the thing that you try to fight your entire existence against, instead of fighting your response to the problems, fighting how you react to the problem. Because I promise you, if you made the right decision in every single moment, your life would be a whole lot better. But it's a lot easier to blame and get emotional and get enraged and point the finger. But it really serves you no good, because nothing is going to come out of that. The only thing that's going to come out of that is your own heart attack, because you're going to drive yourself crazy. Your stress level is going to be off the chart, and you're going to put yourself in an early grave. How to extinguish conditioned responses. We can, however, extinguish the conditioned response if we can make practice of relaxing instead of responding. We can, if we wish, just as in the case of the telephone, learn to ignore the bell and continue to sit quietly and let it ring. A key thought we would carry with us is to use whenever we are confronted by any disturbing stimuli is to say to ourselves, the telephone is ringing, but I do not have to answer it. I can just let it ring. This thought will key in to your mental picture of yourself sitting quietly, relaxed, unresponding, doing nothing, letting the telephone ring unheeded, and will act as a trigger or clue to call upon the same attitude that you had when letting the telephone ring. So I have a really good story from Osho here, and he was basically telling a parable about a man who he was dying, and his son, he was going to be left with nothing, and he really had no riches, so he imparted onto his son this one piece of advice. And the piece of advice was, before you respond to anything, before you react to anything, give yourself a day to think. So every time this boy would be let down by someone, every time this boy would be wronged by someone, he would wait a day and go back to them. And by the time he responded, that emotion, that anger, that rage was no longer there, and he was able to respond rationally. He was able to take the other person's perspective. He was able to see why certain things happen, and because of this, he eventually became an enlightened individual, because he was just waiting, because he wasn't responding, because he wasn't reacting, because he was allowing himself to see the bigger picture. And essentially this is the same thing. Like, when you take a step back from the situation, then you see what's really going on. Like, it's really difficult to see when you're involved in a situation. It's really difficult to see what's going on when your emotions are involved. But when you allow yourself to just take a step back and just relax, and then really start thinking about things when those emotions go away, then things start to click, then things start to make sense. And it's a whole lot better to look back on things and rationalize them than to be heated in the moment, because when you're heated in the moment, that's when you say things you don't want to say. That's when you do things you don't want to do. And that's really the shortcoming of emotions, is that they can be beautiful, but they can also be haunting, and we too often give our credence to the haunting emotions instead of the beautiful ones. If you cannot ignore the response, delay it. And again, this is a very similar idea of avoiding the situation, allowing yourself to kind of work through it, allowing yourself to kind of have your space, have your time, think about it, process it, go through the stages of, I guess you would say, grief in this sense, and deal with it in a healthy way, because far too many people give that first response. If something bad happens, am I going to text that person right away and say, well, why didn't you do this? Or am I going to sit with that idea? Am I going to sit with that action and think about it for a little bit, and then give a more thought out, a more mature response? Allow my more negative emotions to get out before I tell them the things that I want to say to them. Like, it's really just removing yourself from the situation long enough to think about things and not let that first instinct out, because usually that raw emotion is unfiltered and it's going to burn bridges. Relaxation erects a psychic screen or tranquilizer. It is well to get clearly in your mind the fact that our disturbing feelings, our anger, hostility, fear, anxiety, insecurity, are caused by our own responses, not by externals. Response means tension. Lack of response means relaxation. It has been proved in scientific laboratory experiments that you absolutely cannot feel angry, fearful, anxious, insecure, unsafe as long as your muscles remain perfectly relaxed. All these things are, in essence, our own feelings. Tension in muscles is a preparation for action or getting ready to respond. Relaxation of muscles bring about mental relaxation or peaceful, relaxed attitude. This makes a whole lot of sense because anytime I'm feeling emotionally worked up, what I do is I go to the gym and I get myself moving, I get my body going, and I guess you could say I'm tensing my muscles, but I'm also getting that emotional energy out. I'm getting that energy that otherwise would be tensed for that response, and I'm using it for something more productive. I'm using it for something that isn't degenerative or isn't negative in terms of the response that I would have given if I was just upset and I was just lashing out in anger. And I think there's all sorts of things that you can do. I really advocate for meditation, but if you don't want to meditate, then I really say that just find ways to calm yourself down. Find ways to bring back perspective to your life. And one of the greatest ways to bring back perspective to your life, I oftentimes say it, is to get out a sheet of paper and write down the blessings you have. It's simply the easiest way to find happiness is to find gratitude, and it can immediately shift you out of a state of anger. It can immediately shift you out of a state of pure disgust and pure rage. Build yourself a quiet room in your mind. Men seek retreats for themselves, houses in the country, seashores, and mountains, and thou too art wont to desire such things very much, said Marcus Aurelius. But this altogether a mark of the most common sort of men, for it is in thy power whenever thou shalt choose to retire into thyself. For nowhere, either with more quiet or more freedom from trouble, does a man retire than into his own soul, particularly when he has within him such thoughts that by looking into them he is immediately in perfect tranquility. And I affirm this tranquility is nothing else than the good ordering of the mind. Constantly then give to thyself this retreat and renew thyself. Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. During the last days of World War II, someone commented to President Harry Truman that he appeared to bear up under the stress and strain of the presidency better than any previous president, that the job did not appear to have aged him or sapped his vitality, and that this was rather remarkable, especially in view of the many problems which confronted him as a wartime president. His answer was, I have a foxhole in my mind. And I don't agree with anything Harry Truman did. I don't really like him as a president, but that's a very good example of somebody being able to deal with stress by simply removing themselves from the situation, by simply allowing themselves to take a break and take a break from existence and understand that things are going to change and things are going to adapt, and it's our response and how we respond with our emotions, energy, time, attention that are really going to dictate the way that the rest of our life goes. Your own decompressing chamber. Each of us needs a quiet room inside his own mind, a quiet center within him, like the deep of an ocean that is never disturbed, no matter how rough the waves may become upon the surface. This quiet room within, which is built in imagination, works as a mental and emotional decompressing chamber. It depressurizes you from tensions, worry, pressures, stresses, and strains, refreshes you and enables you to return to work a day world better prepared to cope with it. So one of the greatest things that you can do on a daily basis, I'm sure he's going to say, you have to find activities that de-stress you, but while I'm thinking about it and while it's in my head and fresh, going on walks, removing yourself from the worldly sense of things and just getting away will really free up your mind, will really get you away from the stresses and the things that are bothering you and allow you to reset your mind and return to a project refreshed. So, whenever I'm working on something and it's just not going according to plan and it feels like things aren't clicking, I get up, I go on a walk for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and when I come back, everything's brand new. Everything's refreshed. I may have walked several miles, but after walking those several miles, I feel refreshed. I feel like I just slept 20 hours straight and I'm ready to conquer the world. So, reminder, if you're really, really struggling with things, take a little break. Do your dishes, do your laundry, clean your room, go on a walk, find something manual to do that's mindless and just lose yourself in that activity, and then return and see how things feel. A little vacation every day. Whenever you have a few spare moments during the day between appointments, riding the bus, retire into your quiet room. Whenever you begin to feel tension mounting or feel hurried or harried, retire into your quiet room for a few moments. Just a few minutes taken from a very busy day in this manner will more than pay for themselves. It is not time wasted but time invested. Say to yourself, I'm going to rest a bit in my quiet room. So a really easy way to do this is this is the easiest way to think about meditation is close your eyes and allow the world to just happen. Because when you try to control the world, that's when you exist in the active plane of things. That's when you exist in your day-to-day life. That's when you do things that expect a certain result. Meditation is purely just allowing the world to exist and allowing the world to work and stop needing to control things. Allow yourself to give up control of the world close your eyes and meditate on that idea, think about that idea, and just relax. You need a certain amount of escapism. And this is an idea that I think most people don't quite understand, that everything in some sort of ways is escapism. It's just some things are more productive than others. So just be careful with your time. I think there's certainly better uses of your time than others, but I'm not going to be that person that says that if you're not actively doing something at all times, it's very, very bad for you, and you need to be more productive than everyone else to succeed. This is an idea I used to have, and this is an idea that took me a long time to get over, but looking at it on the other side of it, that's just how you kill your creativity. That's just how you kill your love for life and your lust to go do things, and your lust to go, find fulfillment in your day-to-day pleasures. So really find time each day to do things that you enjoy and do things that develop you. Obviously we're on a channel that reads a lot of books. I think a great one is to read a lot of books, listen to podcasts, listen to people with interesting ideas, find in some way to remove yourself from the scenarios of life and learn something. I think learning is one of the best ways to escape the stresses of the world. Clear your mechanism before undertaking a new problem. This is basically the idea of don't carry your life over into your work. Think about it this way. If you start a project worrying about something else, then how are you going to give your best on that project? Each task is its own contained world and its own contained set of problems, so don't take the rest of the world and impart that onto the issue. Allow things to be fresh, allow things to be started from brand new. Don't put your preconceived notions and the way you've done things in the past into it. Just allow yourself to work. Insomnia, rudeness are often emotional carryovers. Again, this is just the idea of carrying over the problems of your life into other things. Think about arguments you have. Are you really mad at that person, or are you just mad at the things that have been happening to you lately? I think a lot of our issues that we have with significant others, friends, loved ones, just people in general, is just us being dissatisfied with our life and taking that emotion and taking that energy out on someone else. Emotional carryover causes accidents. Insurance companies and other agencies which do research on causes of accidents have found that emotional carryover causes many automobile accidents. Again, I've said this several times throughout the video, but people that overreact when they get cut off in traffic or overreact and get road rage, those are usually the people that are causing accidents. Those are the people that are doing things irrational. It's a very serious thing to do, and there's life-threatening consequences, so please don't do it. Calmness carries over too. And again, this is the idea that if you can calm yourself down, then in the next moment you can respond with more rationality. You can respond with a bird's eye view of the situation, and you can respond more effectively. Build your own psychic umbrellas. Again, this is the same idea of being able to retreat into your mind, being able to stop yourself from reacting, and when you catch yourself overreacting, catch yourself and understand that, you know what, these problems are going to pass. The more I overreact, the worse it's going to be for myself. Your emotional stabilizer. In almost every goal-striving situation, our own inner stability is in itself an important goal to maintain. We must be sensitive to negative feedback data, which advises us when we're off course, so that we can change direction and go forward. But at the same time, we must keep our own ship afloat and stable. Our ship must not be tossed and rocked and perhaps sunk by every passing wave or even a serious storm. As Prescott Leckie expressed it, the same attitude must be maintained in spite of environmental changes. Again, I oftentimes say this, but stop thinking about the damn results. Stop fighting strawman. Still another type of inappropriate response which causes worry, insecurity, and tension is the bad habit of trying to respond emotionally to something which doesn't exist except in our own imaginations. Think about when you're about to start a problem and you think about the consequences before you've ever done them. You want to start a YouTube channel, but you're worried about how people are going to respond. You're worried about the comments. These are imaginary fears. These are imaginary things that haven't yet happened. Maybe they'll come in the future, but deal with them when they come. Don't deal with the stress of something before it has even materialized. Doing nothing is the proper response to an unreal problem. Again, why are you reacting when something is not even real? You're reacting to imaginary demons that you have created in your own mind, and you're giving power to them through your attention. Your first aid kit. Carry these thoughts with you as a sort of first aid kit. Inner disturbance, or the opposite of tranquility, is nearly always caused by over-response, a too sensitive alarm reaction. Okay, practice exercise. Create in your imagination a vivid mental picture of yourself sitting quietly, composed, unmoved, letting your telephone ring as outlined earlier in this chapter. Then in your daily activities, carry over the same peaceful, composed, unmoved attitude by remembering this mental picture. Say to yourself, I am letting the telephone ring. Whenever you are tempted to obey or respond to some fear bell or anxiety bell. Next, use your imagination to practice non-response in various sorts of situations. See yourself sitting quietly and unmoved while an associate rants and raves. See yourself going through your daily task one by one, calmly composed, unhurried, in spite of pressure of a busy day. See yourself maintaining the same constant, stable course in spite of various hurry bells and pressure bells in your environment. See yourself in various situations which have in the past upset you, only now remain set, settled, poised by not responding. Okay. And then the last part of the chapter is your physical thermostat, that no matter the temperature, your body always remains the same temperature unless you're very sick. So if it's a different temperature, get checked out. But let's talk about the practice exercise and then we'll end this video. The practice exercise is super fascinating because it's basically forcing yourself to deal with your own issues. Like, one of the greatest understandings of yourself is when you can look back at the things that have haunted you, when you can look back at the things that you've really struggled with and you no longer respond emotionally to them. That's a sign of your maturity, that's a sign of your growth. And when you can start doing that, then you've started to overcome some of those demons that have haunted you in the past. And that's really how you test yourself. Start to look at situations, start to take that other person's side, start to look through a situation in that person's eyes and come to grips with it. And once you start doing it with the people that you hate, and you start coming to terms with them, and you can start to love that person, you can start to see their side, and you can start to rationalize with them and understand where they're coming from. That's when you can start to move forward, and you're no longer bothered by things because you see the bigger picture. And this was a tremendous chapter. This was something that is taking my voice away now, so I'm not going to talk too much longer, but I really enjoyed reading this to you. I'm going to continue reading this to you. I think there's 15 chapters, and yeah, if you want to see the rest of the videos, they will be linked probably right about now, because the cards should be coming up with the playlist. And yeah, with that said, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for all the support recently. If you want to pick up my book, it's somewhere over there, but I just released a book, so if you liked any of the things I said in that, I know you're gonna like the book. If you want the things I write on a more frequent basis, then go ahead, join the school community. I kind of treat that like a Substack, where I just put my thoughts and put poems and little things I write. But yeah, if none of that sounded interesting and you made it this far, I still love you all the same. So peace out. I'll catch you guys in the next one.